Alright, time to start working on our dashboard layout. And what we want to do is take all of the visual elements that we prepared and organize them in a way that focuses the user's attention and guides them through a logical story. So let's start by creating a dashboard tab and then just getting rid of the grid lines, so go to View and uncheck the grid lines box. And now we can go ahead and insert a text box for our title. And I'm going to start off with more generic titles and subtitles first, and then in a separate lecture we'll take another pass and try to use them to tell a story. But for now, let's just say something like Regional Revenue Dashboard. Let's get rid of the shape outline and just make this bold, bigger, and a little less black, or a little less stark. And then just place it in our top left corner here. And now we're ready for our region filter. So let's just say region, and then add our data validation list here. So data validation, we want to allow for a list, and the source or values are going to be in my data prep tab, and these regions here. Press OK. This is working now, but like the last project, this isn't connected to our visuals yet, so we need to replace the drop down here in our data prep tab with this new one. So again, go to data validation, and clear this list, and then just make this value equal to the selection in our dashboard. And again, for some reason it's not letting me click on it, but I can select another cell, move up, press enter, and there we go. So now if I change this from New York to Los Angeles, we get Los Angeles here and Los Angeles in our visuals. So let's go back to our dashboard and add some formatting here. Let's make this italics and bigger and bold and bigger, and maybe just give it a light yellow fill again so the user knows that this is where they can select the region. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger and center this, and then maybe right align this, and now let's just move this so that our filter is aligned with our title. So that's looking pretty good. And now that my filter's set up, I'm just going to add a line here to separate my header from the rest of my dashboard. So I'm going to go to Insert, Shapes, and just add a line. Hold Shift and then just drag across. And let's maybe make this gray and a little bit thicker. And there we go. So now we're ready to bring in our visuals down here. Now, before we do that, remember that it's important to plan the layout first and then cut the visuals from our data prep tab and bring them in here. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck getting everything organized for ages. So let's just start by adding a title for each chart. I'm just going to select this one, Control Shift, and then drag down. And the first one is just going to be the total revenue KPI. And let's make this much smaller. And now again, Control Drag. We've got our month over month percentage change KPI. Let's add our symbol in here. Close that. Year over year. Then we've got our revenue trend. So that's going to be the line chart. We've got the store performance bar charts. And then the top, the top performing products and the bottom performing products. I'm just going to select all of these. Whoops. And I'm holding Shift and clicking to do that. And just center my titles. Alright, so now that I've got all of these in here, it's time to figure out where I'm going to place each of my visuals. And to do that, let's get an overall sense of the space that we're going to be working with. So I'm just going to go and hide the ribbon here. So go into full screen mode. And remember, if you're not working with the latest version of Excel, you most likely need to hide the ribbon from a menu that you'll have right here. Alright, so this is the space for my dashboard. And now where do I want to put each of these visuals? I know that the total revenue KPI is the most important metric. So if we want the end users to see it straight away, we do need to keep it in the top left corner here. So let's make some space for that. Let's move these out of the way. And I'm going to bring in a shape just to take the place of the KPI card. So let's align it a bit here. And we do want this to be pretty big, just to really draw the user's attention to it. So that's looking pretty good. Let's align this. And then from here, we can have the other two KPI cards below it for context. So month over month and year over year. And we can make both of these a little bit smaller. So let me just make this smaller. Maybe move these down a bit. And then just get my placeholders in here. And that's our main KPIs for revenue. So what's the next level of detail here? The revenue trend, right? So let's bring that down here after our KPIs. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And then just drag our shape down here. Whoops. And that's a nice space for our line chart. Let's maybe move these up a bit. And to continue with the pattern of going to the next level of detail, let's place our store performance bar charts right after this. Let's copy this. And we want to make it pretty wide since we do have two complementary bar charts here. Bring this down. It's not bad. I'm going to send it to the back. And then let's finish off with our two product tables, which are the most granular visuals. Let's bring that over here. Let's place this here. And then just get our shapes in. Alright, so now we've got our user reading the title, moving on to the region drop-down list, then reading the total revenue, going down to the other two KPI cards, continuing down to see the revenue trend, then moving on to the breakdown by store, and finishing off with the best and worst performing products. So that seems like a logical sequence now, so it's time to bring in the actual visuals. So let's go over to our data prep tab. And let's start with our KPI cards here. Now, as I selected, you'll notice that this reference doesn't include the sheet name. So if I press Ctrl X to cut and paste it in the dashboard tab, you'll notice that this is blank, and that's because this is now referencing cell E2 in this worksheet, which is blank. So let's just change this one more time. Go back to data prep, select cell E2. You'll see that now we have our sheet reference. Press OK, and we get our value back. It did remove the formatting, but that's okay. Let's just apply it one more time. Let's make this centered. Oops. I'm going to show my ribbon once more since we do already have the bounds of our dashboard. And let's make this bold, centered here as well, and much bigger. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. And we can center it if we select both, go to shape format, and just align center. And let's get rid of our shape behind it. And before I go back and grab my linked pictures, I'm just going to select this and copy the sheet reference because we are going to need to do the same thing for those before we bring them over. So let's go over here, select this first linked picture, and paste our sheet name before our cell reference. We'll see that nothing changes. Let's do the same here. But now, as I select both of these, cut them, and paste them in my dashboard, we're still referencing these cells back here in the data prep tab. And let's just check that they're still linked. Looks like we're good to go. Now, it looks like one of these is bigger than the other. Let me see. This has a height of 0.5. 0.45, so just to make sure that the text is the same size, I'm just going to change this one to 0.45 as well. And now it looks like they're the same size. Now if I do want to center the text here, you'll notice that I don't have the option right now, and that's because this is directly tied to the formatting of the cell that it's linked to. So what I can do is just center the text here, and you'll see that that will take care of it. So now let's just drag these here. This is year over year. This is month over month. Let's just align these to the top. And then just center them with their titles. And now we can get rid of these shapes behind them. Just move both of these up. And I'm just going to use the arrows to be careful. And again, let's align these to the top as well. So that's looking pretty good. I'm just going to add some separator lines in here to make it look a little bit better. So again, shapes. Let's add a line and use shift to make sure it's straight. Let's bring it down a bit. And then add another one right here. Whoops. And then I'm just going to center these three just to make sure that they're all aligned. Let's move this up a bit, make it shorter. Whoops. All right, let's use this. And now let's just change the color real quick to this light gray. And there we go. So we've got our KPI cards all set up and linked to our source data. So it's time to bring in this line chart. Select it, Control X to cut, and paste it in here. And let's just drag it into our space here. Move this up a bit. And maybe move our legend down here instead. Get a little bit bigger. Let's move this. Again, we can move this around and align these things forever, but as long as you have things in a spot that doesn't look jarring in any way, then you should be good to go. So let's bring in our bar charts now. Select both, cut, and paste them in here. And it looks like we're going to need these a little bit taller. Let's move these down. And let's bring this one a little bit closer in. And you'll notice that it's overlapping my other chart, but what we can do is just go to Format and just make sure it has a transparent fill. Now if we remove the shape from the background, you'll see that it's no longer overlapping it, at least not visually. I'm going to move this one a little bit to the right as well, just so that we have a nice bar of white space here to really separate my visuals. And then maybe make these labels a little bit bigger. Make these bigger as well. And let's do the same here. We could even make these a little bit bigger as well. Alright, not bad. And finally, we have our tables. Now, this is a little bit different because the tables aren't really objects like my charts here. So we're going to need to play around with our cells. But before I do that and start moving these around, I don't want any of my charts to move or resize because it's going to mess everything up. So I'm going to zoom out a bit, and in the Home tab, go to Find and Select Objects. I'm just going to click and drag and select everything in my dashboard, and then just right click on anything, go to Size and Properties, and then in the Properties dropdown, make sure that they're all set to Don't Move or Size with Cells. Once we do that, we can remove this option, zoom back in, and we should be good to go. So let's see where these tables can fit. This can maybe be the first row there, and then move this a bit here. Alright, so let's get rid of this, and we're going to want the product, the revenue, and the month over month revenue change, which is what we have in our tables here. Whoops. So this is what we want to bring over. So let's prepare that. Let's make this a little bit wider. Let's just align this with our line here. And I'm going to right align these two, just because the numbers underneath them will be right aligned as well. So it's going to look a little bit more uniform. And let's just go ahead and make the size of the text underneath all of these cells bigger. Let's do size 12 instead, and our lighter shade of black. So now let's actually bring these in here. We can simply make these cells equal to these cells here. Drag our references down and over. Let's apply some formatting here. Control-1. We want currency, no decimal places. There we go. Let's make our headers bold. And I'm going to add a bottom border here, but I want it to be light gray. Bottom border. There we go. And finally, I'm going to make these cells taller as well. Just going to select all of these since we are going to have our second table. And maybe make them 30 pixels tall. 31 is fine. And you'll notice that as I do that, since I did modify my properties, everything else is staying in place, which is what we want. Now it even looks like we have space for another product here. So let's try to add that. I'm going to go back to my Data Prep tab, and this is where it really pays off to really have these ordered formulas in the back end. Check this out. I'm going to add another rank, say 6, and you'll see that we automatically get our 6th top performing product in here with its revenue and its revenue change. Let's do the same here. Voila. And now let's just drag this down and maybe add the sum of all the changes here to see just how much these 6 products impacted my overall revenue figure. Let's make this bold, and let's underline this as well just to get a real sense that this is a sum. And now we can do the same exact thing for our bottom performing product. So let's copy this, get it in here, and now let's just make this equal choose this, apply over, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Add our sum in here. Close that out. I'm just going to copy all of this formatting, apply it here, and let's just make this a little bit shorter. And it looks like we might be all set with our layout. Let me hide our ribbon one more time here. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. Let's just check that our filter works. So this is New York. Got Los Angeles, everything is updating. Got Chicago, got that updating as well. So perfect. Again, it did take us quite a bit to do this. This is always going to be one of the longest steps, but it's okay that it is, because remember, we really need to put thought into our layout, because that's ultimately going to determine how easy it is for our users to interact with our dashboard and extract useful information from it.